Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rational Investor. This is your bi-weekly reality check on investment, personal finance management, and economy. So today we are going to discuss yet another important topic, managing personal finance in trying times like this. And it goes without saying that we are living in one of the most difficult times in our lives. Inflation is raging, and a sharp correction in the rupee has invited imported inflation. And all of this is happening while the country is going through one of its worst economic crises in its history. So the big question is, how can we make our personal finance inflation proof and recession proof in times like this? And to find answers to those, today we have invited a personal finance expert. He's Manosh Kulasena. He's the head of treasury at a multinational organization, and he's a personal finance management expert. He's a chartered accountant, and he's also an associate member of CIMA UK. He's also a lecturer and a guest columnist. And over the last 5 years, he has worked with multiple industries, training their employees. And some of these industries, they include some of the heavyweight names in Sri Lanka. Manosh, welcome to Rational Investor. I'm so very excited to have you here with us today.
Pani, thanks for having me. Looking forward for a fantastic session. So thanks for having me in your show.
Likewise. Thank you very much, Manoj. So this is what we are going to do. In the first segment, we are going to discuss the main topic. In the second segment, we are going to discuss your favorite book recommendation and your favorite person to invite for a dinner party when it comes to this personal finance subject domain. So, coming to the topic discussion, I'm going to begin with an open ended question. What is personal finance management and why is it important for a person?
Well, I think personal finance plays a pivotal role in our life, and it is an essential skill. As long as you earn money, right, you should know how to manage your earnings. Because in today's context, I think we all work hard. Sometimes we work hard 10, 12 hours per day for good 25 to 30 years, right? So we are more focused on earning money. But are we managing our money properly? So if you master these personal finance techniques, I'm sure it will enable you to achieve your personal life goals, right? You will make more conscious, informed decisions in terms of family finance. So you could be the only breadwinner in your family. So you have a huge responsibility on your shoulder to manage your earnings properly, right? So this has nothing to do with your profession. You could be a teacher, you could be a marketeer, you could be a doctor, lawyer, irrespective of your profession, right? You must know how to manage your money. And as I shown in my 2017 article, there was a glaring gap between print literacy and financial literacy in Sri Lanka. So there's a lot of room to improve, but I would say personal finance is an essential skill. And one more thing, if I add, Pani, now money is a taboo word in Sri Lanka, right? We don't talk about money management in public forums or within our families, even, right? But this is a subject that we should discuss openly, and I think we should pay a special attention on this area as a life skill. So this is how I frame usefulness of personal finance in our day-to-day life.
Right. Right. So, with that introduction, my next question is, now you are a counselor in terms of financial personal finance management. What is your assessment about personal finance management in among common Sri Lankans? What are the real life cases you've heard, and what are the symptoms of financial illiteracy that you commonly see among the citizens?
Well, it's a good question, Pani, because we have been doing a training session, one-on-one sessions with many fixed income earners in Sri Lanka, and there are very common set of symptoms. Right. For an example, if you are not if you have a poor financial literacy, right, it could lead to multiple pitfalls. For an example, we have seen that there are many fixed income earners who spend significant portion of their salaries to settle uh, loans, right? 50-60% sometimes they allocate to settle their loans. And another common factor that we have seen is living paycheck to paycheck. And if you see the other side of the spectrum, sometimes you're just sitting on surplus cash without doing anything. Most of us are hardwired to focus on, keep our expectations on monthly income, salary increments, bonus, but we are not sweating our surplus cash to make a return out of it, right? So I think the poor financial literacy, the symptoms of poor financial literacy goes on like that. Then we could relate into macroeconomy as well. When country citizens are financially illiterate, right, obviously it could have an impact on national economy as well. And one area that I think as a country we need to think about is retirement planning as well, right? Now in this era everyone is struggling, right? Despite earning salaries, everyone is struggling to meet their day-to-day needs. But just think, right, post retirement you are going to live good another 20 to 25 years without earning money. I don't know, Pani, whether you have a plan about your retirement, right? But I just want to give you a heads up, right? There will be, I'm sure you will live good 2 and a half decades without earning money, right? So do we have a plan for that? And during last 3 years we observed that a lack of emergency funds within families was another symptom of poor financial literacy. Then finally everything could boil down to mental wellness or relationships among our family members sometimes. So we can see a lot of mental related issues, depression, right? Some have committed suicide. So it could boil down to that level. So therefore it is very much important to practice uh, basics when it comes to personal finance. Otherwise you are exposed to so many consequences, and if you drill down you will realize that poor financial literacy is the root cause.
I'm going to backtrack on something you said. When it comes to emergency funds, how many months of salaries, or how many months of expenses would you recommend for a person to have as emergency funds?
Yeah. So before I answer that question, I'm sure you are practicing that tip already, right? I hope you have an emergency fund, right?
I
Uh,
do.
uh,
I do.
which you built over years. Yeah. So in personal finance domain, what we prescribe is it should be 4 to 6 months of your basic salary, which should be sufficient to look after your day-to-day expenses, right? Because let's assume tomorrow or next month you lose your job, or due to some reason your cash inflow is no more, right? Now in that kind of a situation you should have a plan B, basically to execute your day-to-day living standards or other transactions. It could be grocery, medical bills, education bills, right? So you need to build up a small reserve could equal to 4 to 6 months salary, right? And emergency fund should be utilized only for daily essentials. So I would say compulsory or other mandatory expenses. You should not put entertainment budget. You should not try to cover your entertainment budget via your emergency fund. So that would be my answer in terms of the size of the emergency fund.
Right. Thank you, Manoj. And why I particularly asked that previous question was, I remember some time ago I was having a chat with a consumer analyst who's working for a emerging fund, and I remember he's saying, because he looks at India, he looks at Sri Lanka, and he said a stark difference that he sees in Sri Lanka is that the fresh graduates, soon after securing a job, they would try to get a personal loan or a lease, and they would try to buy a vehicle. Whereas in India, is fresh graduates, they would wait for few years until they have enough savings to purchase a vehicle. I just remembered, since we discussed about that previous topic. Now, moving on, I would like to get some helpful tips in terms of navigating the current situation, because we are living in impossible times. Costs are soaring, but our salaries are not so much. And credit card interest rates, they have gone through the roof. So, how can one navigate turbulent times like this? Is everything doom and gloom? What helpful tips can you offer a person in navigating, in facing a challenging period like this?
Yeah. So my take would be like this: in this kind of unprecedented times, I think we should not panic. I think that is number one, right? And then in terms of personal finance, this is a time where we need to practice our basics quite well. So the starting point would be just relook at what is happening to your life goals, what you want to achieve in next 2 years, 5 years time, right? Then try to convert those life goals into financial goals, so right, you are going to allocate certain amount of money from today's salary income to achieve those life goals. So let's assume you have already set your life goals prior to pandemic, right? Or 2 years back, right? I would say this is the right time to recalibrate your financial goals. Sometimes you might want to push your housing project another for another 2 years, or sometimes you might want to advance one of your financial goals. So have a plan, initiate a dialogue with your family members. What do we exactly want to do to our hard-earned money in next 2 to 3 year horizon, or it could go up to 5 years, right? Because sometimes we have to change plans. We might have to prepone certain things, or we might have to push back certain things, or sometimes we need to rationalize the budget, right? So identify your priorities. That is very important, very much important. Then the second one would be, before you decide whether I'm going to invest in real estate or whether I'm going to invest in share market, whatever the next step, you need to ascertain where you stand right now, right? Now, most of us, when you get salaries, you get an SMS. I hope, Vajrapani, you get that monthly SMS once you get your salary to your account. Then on the
One
next
of the
side, you
best
get
SMSs in the month.
exactly. So the best days of the month. Then after 1 hour or 2 hour, you get, okay, here goes the debits, right? So we need to ascertain where we stand right now. Do a small cash flow. Think about your inflows and outflows, right? Do a 30 days cash flow statement, and then look at, why don't you do a small balance sheet? Take a stock of all your assets and liabilities. That will tell you whether you have a positive or negative net worth. So no point of having all types of assets, right, if those assets are funded via debt. So you need to have the right balance between assets and liabilities. So take these two x-rays. In Money Talks Money, we call this as an x-ray, because when you have your x-ray, you will then only you can see what are your pain points, right? What are the areas where you need to treat. So it is important to get that visibility. The third point would be, when it comes to conscious spending, since you touch upon credit cards and high inflation. So we have to be really conscious when it comes to our spending patterns, right? We need to critically evaluate, ask certain questions, that am I buying this because of this credit card offer? Am I buying this because of the installment plan, right? Is there a real necessity? Can I push back for the next month, right? So you need to exercise great amount of you need to critically evaluate all your expenses. Remember, let me put you this way also, another small point. Now, you are the executive president, finance minister at home, right? So we always talk about the national economy, we talk about politicians, but when it comes to family finances, you are the finance minister. So it is your responsibility, right, to be cautious when it comes to this expenditure, right? So talking about credit cards, as you rightly said, interest rates are going up, right? We are talking about 38, 40%. And I have seen still people pay only the uh, minimum amount to be paid, right? And they continue and they are racking up huge interest. So I think these are the areas that people should be mindful when it comes to personal finance. So I think these, if you can practice these three steps, right? Recalibrate your financial goals. Number two, take your cash flow statement, budget, and the balance sheet. See where you stand right now, and work on conscious spending patterns. I think this will really help you.
Right. So let's assume that there's a person who's already sitting on a lot of credit card debt. What advice would you give a person like that? How can he come out of the situation?
Well, I think in credit card, the tricky part is that you take the purchasing decision at one point, and after couple of days or couple of weeks only the payment decision will occur, right? And that is the tricky part. Most of us in real time, we don't see that we have a cash deficit. That is because of the credit card will give us an artificial amount of income, right? So I would say those who are badly stuck in credit cards, no point of running saving accounts, fixed deposits, uh, if you have a huge debt on the other side. But even if you don't have anything, my request would be take a personal loan and settle off these credit cards, right? No point of maintaining huge balances in the credit card statement at 40%, 38%. And we must understand that a reduction in interest expense equal to an income, right? Again, we are more focused on monthly income, annual increment, bonus, right? But remember, my dear friend, interest expense is something that we can work and we can try to reduce, right? So if you reduce interest expense, treat it as a additional income, right? So be cautious in that debt instrument which will push you, and credit card is a consumable debt, right? So this is where you have to be very cautious. I hope I shed some light on the credit card front.
Yes, yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Manoj, I'm now coming to the end of our segment one discussion. My question to you is, let's say hypothetically that if you were a policymaker, what changes would you like to see when it comes to personal finance management? Because I'm asking that question. You said you've seen a lot of cases where people living paycheck to paycheck who don't have emergency funds. So, in this light, if you were a policymaker, what would you do differently to increase the level of financial literacy in the society?
A pertinent question, Vajrapani. So, if I become a policy maker in terms of personal finance front, I would suggest that, I mean, if we can include personal finance as into school curriculum, right? I think that would be great, because we must learn this life skill at the at the age of, I would say, 13, 14, 15, right? In that era, if we can learn about money management, how to prepare a budget, basics, I think that will really help our students, because money management is not purely on techniques, it has some behavioral aspect as well, right? So at early stage, if we can inculcate these good money habits, right, at the early stage, I think it will really beneficial for our student fraternity, because whenever they are moving, I mean, after A levels, when they move to the society or for their higher education, right? You might select a bioscience, maths, or arts, irrespective of your field. You should know how to manage your money, right? So as a policymaker, I would actually think on those lines, how to integrate personal finance to school curriculum. That would be one of my plans, I would say.
Yeah, I think that that's a very important suggestion, Manoj, because like imagine if we can introduce personal finance management as a subject to the curriculum, that would be like life altering, even for an individual, because they will be going to the society, and then they know the right tools to handle their personal finance management, and they will not go into the situation of living from paycheck to paycheck. That would be life altering, and as a society also, that would be the step in the right direction. So I hope that you will one day get to be a policymaker to implement these changes. So with that, we are coming to the end of the segment one topic discussion, and now we are going to move to segment two. And in the segment two, we have two questions. First is the guest book recommendation, and the second is uh, what person you look up to in the industry in your specialized area, and if you were to invite that person for a dinner party, those are the questions we ask. So coming to the question number one in segment two, what's your favorite book recommendation for an investor when it comes to personal finance management, and why do you like that book?
So, in personal finance domain, there are many books, right? There are a lot of like vast literature around this domain globally. Uh, One book that caught my eye is uh, Eric Tyson's Small Businesses for Dummies. This book was published by Wiley Publications, right? And this book talks about how to incorporate financial management into small businesses, how entrepreneurs could bring financial management to run their businesses, right? The interesting fact about this book is Eric Tyson, the author, right? He put finance in very, I would say, very in simple manner, right? He explains certain financial concepts for a layman's, especially for non-finance people, in a very simple yet effective manner. Because when it comes to finance, most of us think it is highly technical, right? We talk about concepts, models. It is somewhat technical, right? But I would say finance is a way of doing business. It is a business language, right? So in the small businesses for dummies, right? Eric has, I think he has done a fantastic job in explaining financial concepts to these entrepreneurs. So I that would be my pick, Eric Tyson, Small Businesses for Dummies.
Right. So moving on to the final question. Uh, if you were to host a dinner party, whom are you going to invite from the industry? In other words, whom do you look up to in the industry?
So, Pani, I will not throw any dinner parties in this current context, right? I'm a bit conscious on my spending, but there are many personalities that I would like to talk in this personal finance domain. Therefore, I will go for a one-on-one chat over a dinner, right? Instead of throwing a party to many personalities in one go. So my pick would be Professor Jack Kapoor. He's a professor based in USA. He's a famous radio and TV personality, author, businessman, a counselor when it comes to personal finance. He has a vast knowledge in this area. Uh, what I really admire about him is how he connects with his clients, right? Because we also do counseling. So when it comes to personal finance related counseling, as I told you earlier, money is a taboo word, right? So you need to understand your client's background, right? Then only you can come up with a more customized solution, right? So what I have seen Professor Kapoor uh, uh, get close with the client. He asked probing questions. He used a lot of, I would say, a funneling technique, right, to reach or to understand the root cause, right? So and then he acts like a family member of yours, right? He acts like a family member of the client, right? So I really like those techniques which will enable us to come up with effective strategies or effective ways of helping out our clients. So I always tell my small team also to follow this person. We can learn a lot, especially when it comes to one-to-one counseling. So my pick would be Professor Jack Kapoor.
Right. So thank you very much, Manoj. So with that, we are coming to the end of today's episode, Managing Personal Finance in Difficult Times. Thank you very much for your valuable knowledge, and I'm very happy that I could pick your brain on some very important topics, especially when it comes to credit cards and how to navigate in difficult times like this. And thank you for the book recommendation. So I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Again, thank you very much for joining Rational Investor. So before we wind up, any final comments, any final remarks from your end for our listeners?
Well, I think, yeah, times we are going through unprecedented times. There is no dispute on that, right? But I would like to request from you all, do not panic, right? I think we need to pay a greater attention to our family finances. And I'll give you this simple mantra. We call it 3C mantra, right? So there are three C's. First C stands for cash, right? Second C stands for cost. Third C stands for control, right? So you could be an entrepreneur. This 3C mantra is applicable not only to family finance, even for corporate or startup finance as well, right? Keep your eye on these three C's. Cash, right? I think you have to more focus on cash. Cash is like oxygen in this kind of environment, right? I would say profit is equivalent to muscles, cash is equivalent to oxygen. So you cannot live without oxygen. So pay attention to your cash flows, have proper plans, right? Then the second one on cost. See whether there are any opportunities to rationalize, reduce your cost. And the third one is on control, right? Have your controls at the right place, right? Do your checks and balances. For simple example, uh, think about insurance. Now, all of us know vehicle prices have gone up, right? With this import restriction as well as with this rupee devaluation. But I know most of us have not done any revaluations, vehicle valuations recently. If you go back to your insurance company, if you check your sum insured value, it is still that low value which was prevailing prior to the pandemic. But if today, if your vehicle met with an accident or if your vehicle got condemned, right, you can claim only that sum insured which is significantly low, right, compared to current market rates. So again, a control aspect, right? So think about these small variables uh, around you. right? Take risk management precautions as much as possible, right? So that would be my last pointer for you. And Vajrapani, thanks for having me in your show. And I would like to wish you all the best to you and your crew. So thanks for having me today.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Manoj. And thank you very much for the last message. Three C's: cash, cost, and control. Be mindful of all those three. And a very important thing you brought up in the end, especially when it comes to managing vehicle insurance. So thank you very much again. And dear listeners, thank you for joining us. We'll see you again in 2 weeks' time with another exciting and a timely topic. Until then, take care.